Life is a journey, not a destination. The first time I heard those lyrics, they resonated deeply for me. My name is Deanna Curry, and I would like to share part of my journey with you, the chapter of turning my life upside down to follow my dreams and to secure my true happiness. My goal is to inspire at least one person to make positive changes on any level on their own journey on this thing we call life, to be closer to your version of true happiness. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel where I share my experience of building a sculpture park in Kennedy, New York. I'm going to start with a 3-part video showing you how I arrived here and the steps I've taken to begin the process. I hope you enjoy and watch till the end so you don't miss anything. If you would like to help support me in the journey, like, subscribe, or check out my GoFundMe. I will continue to show you the progress of the park and eventually the opening day for all to come experience my dream. So follow along on my channel for your chance to see my park come together. So I bring you to my journey from the fall of 2018. I was a successful automotive sales consultant working for a large reputable dealer. My commute was less than desirable as I only had to travel 20 to 25 miles, but the route took me down the highway and onto a hectic 4-lane road to the dealership. Throw in any adverse weather conditions that happened often in Buffalo, New York area, accidents or construction, and it would become a challenge. The money was good, but the hours were long and the phone calls and texts were constant. My husband Rodney and I had just finished renovating our house. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath home with high-end finishes, stainless fireplace wall that I had designed, a hot tub, and a gorgeous gardens completing a beautifully private backyard that we had been married in the previous year. It was going to be my forever home. We then had 2 wonderful dogs, Reese, a white shepherd husky mix, about 11 years old, and Zoe, a Malamute, not even a year old. My daughter Caitlin, then 20, lived with us, and my son Jake, then 23, had been living on his own since he was 18. That year I began to develop a strong interest in making metal sculptures. The inspiration came from seeing my mom create such fun and cool sculptures from random scrap metal found around my dad's shop, flea markets, or thrift shops. Her imagination and creativity was amazing. I slowly began to collect supplies of my own. I put up a small harbor freight tent, purchased a welder, and began collecting scrap metal. Any chance I had, I would work on creating. My mom showed me all she had learned while making many sculptures. The pieces, the different metals, the painting, so much involved in just one work of art. The more art I made, the more I loved it. But as the winter months approached, I knew I would have to find other art projects to fulfill my spare time. Pinterest had begun to keep me busy as I sought out some winter craft ideas. In the meantime, my job started becoming less and less fulfilling. Craving more and more time to work on creativity and art, the mundane routine of working for a big company was starting to wear me thin. I would think about how unhappy I was becoming in the realm of things. The long hours, stressful drive, and the constant phone calls and texts were becoming overwhelming. In an attempt to keep the money flowing, the medical insurance intact, and my mind at ease, I decided to take my position to part-time. At the time, it sounded like the perfect solution. I would have more time for my art, and I could keep my lifestyle in a similarly comfortable way. Months into the transition, I realized this wasn't exactly working out the way I had imagined. In fact, I started trying harder to figure out how I could change my life in a way that made me truly happy inside. The hours only decreased slightly, and the phone calls and texts were as well minimally reduced. I kept on pushing myself, but always completely miserable, knowing something had to change. In the summer months, I asked for the help of my son to create a website to sell the art I had been creating. Could this be my answer to be able to enjoy life more? After Jake and I spent months building the website, downloading inventory, making an LLC, the website was launched. What I didn't consider was the time, sweat, and money that went into creating the pieces wasn't a dollar amount people understood enough to pay. Eventually, with nothing selling and an abundance of artwork, my small lot of land was getting smaller and my mind still searching for answers. At the end of August of 2019, I was on a test drive with an elderly customer. Upon returning to the dealership in a brand new 2020 Equinox, the customer returned to the parking area we left from, and instead of coming to a stop, mistook the gas for the brake and started heading towards the 4-lane insanely busy street ahead. Luckily, the wheel was turned slightly and she drove us directly into one of the trees separating us from the street of rush hour traffic. It happened so fast, yet so much went through my head as we made impact and the airbags deployed. I was completely shocked at what had just happened. I spent the next several hours at the emergency room being checked out. In 2010, I had neck surgery and had to have a cage put in my spine at discs 4, 5, and 6, so I feared the worst. After a ridiculous wait in the emergency room, the doctor seemed to think the cage was uninterrupted and the whiplash was the brunt of my intense pain. I took a couple of weeks off in an attempt to get my thoughts in order. I couldn't stop thinking since the incident happened that this was a sign, a big, bright, flashy sign telling me that it was time for that change. My mind kept asking, how? What? I was confused as ever. The day I returned to work, I analyzed everything. I was so extremely depressed about having to return to the unfulfilling way of life. I finished my day and started my drive home. I always talked with my mom on my way home, and that night was no different, except for the frame of mind she found me in. I had such an intense, sick feeling about returning. I knew I couldn't continue. I had this immense guilt that I would be destroying everything I had worked so hard all these years to create. I was the moneymaker, the one with the health insurance, the 401k. Everything was lying on my shoulders, and I was starting to crumble fast. With my mom's advice echoing in my head, I arrived home, entered the house, and first told Rodney, and then told my employer of 18 years I quit. Everyone thought I had lost my mind, but it didn't matter. I spent the next week wrapping up that chapter and confirming my decision with many people. Now that I had done the unimaginable, I had to figure out what the next chapter of my life was going to be. What was I going to do?